Nobody in the history of everything has ever gotten to the end of their life and thought, you know what? I was wrong about not wanting to have kids for these million reasons. I should have had kids. That doesn't happen. What's up, guys? It's Devin Harrington, the Average Gen Xer. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, welcome. On this channel, I talk about things that interest me. And today, we are going to check out some posts from the subreddit Fencesitters. And with regard to being child-free or having kids, fence-sitters are people, you may have guessed, who are on the fence. And they are not sure whether they want to have kids or they don't want to have kids. And they post on this subreddit looking for some clarity. So let's check out some of their posts. Okay, first post is by user ExpressPie7472. And it's titled, How to Make Pregnancy and Birth Equitable. And I would assume she means between men and women. I, 31-year-old female, spent the majority of my life since middle school wanting to be child-free by choice for a variety of reasons. Okay, so far so good. I had no desire to have children up until about 1 year ago. She's 31. So when she turned 30, she started to wonder. And that was when I became a fence sitter after I started dating my current partner, 33-year-old male. His only deal breaker is that he wants kids. He has wanted them since he himself was a child, and he has been actively working to be able to support a family since he graduated high school. So this dude actually seems like someone that possibly should have children because he really has the right idea. He wants to be a father. He wants to take care of his family. He seems like everything is on the up and up. And unfortunately, not having kids is a deal breaker for him, but that doesn't mean that she should have them. Okay, she goes on. When we started dating, we both knew we were on opposite sides of the fence, but we didn't know how far opposite we were. How is that really even possible? Because she always knew she didn't want children, and he always knew he did. That doesn't sound like a compatible pair of people. For the past 6 months, we have been engaged in an ongoing conversation about which path is right for us, or if we can even come to an agreement. One of the questions that I keep getting stuck on is how to make birth and pregnancy equitable, since he has a strong desire for a biological child, as does his male ego. She didn't say that, I did. As a female person, I would be losing 9 months of my life to pregnancy, 12 plus months assumed to recovery, risking my life and health, risking my job due to taking maternity leave, etc. The above is if everything goes to plan and something doesn't go horribly wrong, which it certainly is possible. Women die giving birth all over the world every day. There is some woman dying in childbirth. And unfortunately, the U.S. Deaths by childbirth are going up because of our current political climate. This is not a political channel. That's all I have to say about that. The above is if everything goes to plan and something doesn't go horribly wrong. I feel like I'm getting saddled with 100% of the risk. Well, you are. That's how it's worked since man and woman were invented, since every single species, except for seahorses, the female carries the baby and has to birth it. So yes, you do take on most of the risk. Surprisingly, despite being an incredibly smart and empathetic person, the response I keep getting is that unfortunately this boils down to biology, and that since he doesn't have a uterus, this will never be truly equitable. Yes, that's true. Why is this even a question? Has anyone developed a path that worked for them to make this risk feel equitable between genders? How have some of you explained this risk or lack of equitability to your partner to help them better understand your side of this conversation? Edit. Thank you to everyone who has commented. I wanted to confirm that I 100% know that since he does not have a uterus, he will not be able to biologically be equitable with me. I was looking for non-biological ways that people have found to make this more equitable. Why does she keep saying that word, equitable? Like she can't agree to have a kid with this guy unless he's gonna be doing the same amount of work, which because he's male and she's female is impossible. She goes on. Or maybe the proper term is fair, as some people have used in the comments. I think that would be a better term, fair. But there is no fairness when it comes to pregnancy and birth. I mean, if you're lucky and you have a good guy who fathered your child and he's there in the delivery room with you every step of the way, being your birth partner, being encouraging, telling you it's going to be okay, holding your hand, yada, yada, yada. That's great. But even then, the worst can happen. Disasters happen. I am also unwilling to put another woman through the same risks, which is why I had already taken surrogacy off the table. I think surrogacy is like super expensive. That's why rich celebrities use it. But I don't think like the average person could afford surrogacy. I have some health issues that make me more concerned about this being high risk than the average woman, though, which leads to the strong wording. Okay, if it's not absolutely obvious, this woman should not have kids. And that is something that I've said on this channel, I don't know how many times. Like, if you are one of those people like this guy who has dreamed of having a family, always wanted to have children, has been preparing yourself your whole life to do exactly that, then you should have children. You are the kind of person who will be a good parent, who will have the patience and the financial resources and the partner and the support and blah, blah, blah to raise your children so that they are decent contributors to society. But if you are like this woman, where all you can think, I mean, the first thing she's thinking about is how do I make the male take on more of the pain and risk and ickiness of pregnancy and childbirth, and there's just really no way to do that. So she should not have kids. Not. You are on opposite sides of the fence. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you are not compatible with something. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you are not compatible with someone and breaking up. I mean, I think when you get to a certain age, we've all been in relationships like that, where there's just some area of life where you just could not meet in the middle. You just were not on the same page. And that's totally fine. There's no shame in breaking up because of that. Okay. I didn't save any of the comments on that one. I'm really not sure why, but let's continue. Ready Fire 135 posted, and it's titled, "Help, worried husband will leave me over not having kids." She says, "I always used to want kids. Now I'm nearly 30, female, and it's an actual possibility. I don't want them." And that's okay too. You have every right to change your mind. She goes on, "The issue is my partner 34-year-old male really, really does. And we got married 2 years ago, both thinking we did want them. For about a year, I have been on the fence, and I really think I don't want them now for a lot of reasons. He thinks it's just fear and anxiety and wants us to go for it. Yes, of course he does, because he's the guy. All he has to do is have sex, and that's it. His job is done. And so he's telling her, oh, it's just fear and anxiety, you silly little girl. Don't worry about it. Let's just go for it. Who cares if your body gets ripped in half up and down from point A to point B, which happens all the time? Okay, let's all calm down, okay? She goes on. I don't want the physical upheaval of even a straightforward pregnancy. I don't want to take time off of work. I don't want my life to be held captive by a baby, toddler, child. Even the thought of doing a school run, I find awful. Have we decided yet that this lady should not have kids and she should not be married to someone who really, really wants them? If she goes through with this, I guarantee she's going to be on the regretful parents subreddit. We'll be reading that post in a year or so. She goes on. I don't want to stop my hobbies and evening classes and be permanently exhausted and run down. I don't want to stop spontaneous trips away. And I'm terrified of any physical or mental handicap the child would have that realistically would ruin our lives. And I'm glad she said that, because, I mean, that's like reason number 587 why I would not want to have kids, is the absolute terror of what if there is some horrible birth defect. I knew a woman who just had one child. Her husband left because the child was severely disabled, was never going to be independent, was never not going to be in a wheelchair, could not really speak. And so he left. And this woman spent her life taking care of her child. And she is a gold star heart person. Bless her for doing that. But I could not be that person. And so if you know yourself and you know that you don't have the patience, you don't have the wherewithal, you don't have the endurance, then you shouldn't be having kids. Because it seems these days like we know so much more about the makeup of the human psyche, all of these things that we've discovered are on a spectrum. And it just seems like every other kid is being diagnosed with something or put on medication. And I could not deal with that. I just could not. I would be as terrified as this girl is. She goes on. The issue is, I think my husband will always resent me for not having them, or might even leave me. There's also pressure from my parents. Oh, Jesus. If I'm honest with myself, the only people I would be having a baby for would be other people. No, 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 ma'am. No, ma'am. Not in any universe should you ever have a baby to please somebody else. Ever, ever, ever. Anyone been in this position, and how did you proceed? I'm very happy with my husband, but I also see it from his point of view that we got married thinking we wanted the same things. I also don't know if he's right, and once our friends all settle down and have them and our social life quiets, I will regret not having kids. The whole thing about, do people that don't have kids get to the end of their life and look back and think, gee, I wish I would have had kids? Fuck no, they don't. Fuck no. Nobody in the history of everything has ever gotten to the end of their life and thought, you know what? I was wrong about not wanting to have kids for these million reasons. I should have had kids. That doesn't happen. Because if you changed your mind at some point during your life, you can adopt, you can foster, you can help with your friends' kids, you can get plenty of time spent in improving the lives of children if you want to do that. But people who decide they don't want to have kids don't want to do that. They go and do volunteer work with animals or something. I mean, it's just ridiculous that that's one of the bingos that breeders give us as well. One day you might regret it. No. But you know who does regret? Is the people who do have children. And maybe they just regret it during the early years when they don't get any sleep, or maybe they just regret it altogether, but they don't get to make a choice anymore. They made their choice. They're stuck with it for the rest of their lives. Even if that child dies at some point before them, they are still that child's mother, whether that child is a baby or is 70 years old. They're still the parent. So once you are a parent, you are a parent for the rest of your life. And in my humble opinion, the vast majority of people are not prepared to do that, to be parents. Okay, the comments on this one. Myself a Savan said, honestly, you may just have to let him go. If he really wants them and you don't, it's a compatibility issue. I feel like there will always be an underlying resentment if you guys stay together, and that is absolutely true. And as I said before with the first couple, there is no shame in realizing, even years into a relationship or a marriage, that you are not compatible. Even people that have been together for decades, you grow in different directions. People change over time. Their wants change. You know, who they are changes. And so it sucks, but you cannot be with someone that is not compatible with you on this particular issue because it's so all-encompassing. This commenter goes on, people who really are passionate about having kids very rarely change their mind, in my experience. Probably so. Mifet80 commented exactly this. He deeply, enthusiastically wants kids. OP enthusiastically doesn't. There's nothing more to say. Exactly. There is no course forward for this relationship now. It's reached its conclusion. Yeah. And that's okay. I mean, if you think of it this way, all relationships end. Every last fucking relationship that's ever happened on the face of planet Earth ends because somebody leaves or somebody dies. So eventually you will not have that relationship anymore because you'll be dead or they'll be dead or they will have left or you will have left. It's the nature of everything that is alive in the entire universe that nothing is forever. So it's perfectly fine if you are not compatible with your spouse. Even if you got married saying, yes, 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 I want kids, it's okay to change your mind. I mean, you're talking about the rest of your life. Okay, shut up. KGS Pam commented, agreed. If he wants to leave you, then you should let him. He wants kids and you don't. That's something that can't be compromised. Yes, absolutely. Creature of Flight 11 commented, I would prep for divorce. You shouldn't have kids you don't want as a woman. As a man, he has no clock ticking and can find another woman to do it with. This is best in the long run. Nothing is worse than kids you resent. Yes, because there ain't no taking them back to customer service. Once you have them, they're yours. I mean, even the fire station. RN2259 commented, men's sperm quality significantly decreases soon after his age, meaning mid-30s. It's a myth that they can easily just do it whenever they want. Well, I really don't think that's like the point, you know. These people are young. they certainly, this guy could be 50 and could marry a 30-year-old woman and have kids. Anyway, next post is by Primary Dig 314, and it's titled, "Anyone decide they're a no and feel good about it because their partner didn't want a baby, especially due to older age? My partner has always said they likely don't want children. Sometimes they say they can picture it with me, but whenever I bring it up, they get stressed." That's not a good sign. "Their concerns include the political climate." I'm guessing this is in the United States. "I'm 37. Oh, sorry. Their concerns include the political climate, their age, late 40s, close to 50, and being able to retire. I'm 37, and while I have friends who had babies in their late 40s and early 50s, I understand their concerns." I mean, can you imagine having a baby at 50? I know Janet Jackson had her baby at 50, but fuck that. That's way too old. Even if you have Janet Jackson's money to pay for people to watch your kid and take care of them and give them everything their little heart desires, that kid is going to be 20 when she's 70. That's just, there are reasons why women, it's harder to get pregnant the older you get. Nature designed it that way, I guess. So she goes on, "I understand their concerns. In my previous relationship, I expected to have a baby, but after we broke up, I questioned if it was truly right for me. I had not thought about what it meant to have a baby in an emotional, mature way." Jesus Christ. And that is why nobody should have a baby until they are at least 25 years old and they have a prefrontal cortex to determine if they are ready to have a child. Financially, physically, emotionally, do they have the maturity and the patience to see it through and raise this child right? And most people don't. Certainly, almost the vast majority of teenage parents suck. Yes, I'm sure there are a few out there who just take to it naturally, but most of them suck because in this day and age, nobody should be having a kid when they themselves are still a kid. Okay. She goes on, "I'm struggling with the decision. I see the pros of both paths, but time feels like it's slipping away." Well, she's 37, so yeah, it kind of is. "And I want to feel at peace so my partner and I can move forward. That said, if I decide I want a baby and they don't, I can't imagine breaking up just to find someone who does. Nor do I want to use a donor or adopt. So really, it comes down to whether it's an option with this partner." Well, she's painted herself into that corner. "Has anyone on the fence got to the point where they decided no, chose to stay with a partner who didn't want kids and felt good about it?" So this is coming point of view from the other side. "May need a drink" commented, "I'm close to your age and I don't even have a partner. That said, I can relate to your hesitation about going back into the dating world, specifically to find a willing co-parent in your mid to late 30s. I have at least one friend who's in that position, and it sometimes seems like dating to fall in love and more like interviewing for the position of suitable second parent, because it is. When the clock is ticking, and though I'm a child-free person and I am one of those weirdos that always knew I never needed to have kids because I was put here to help the animals, I never had to worry about finding a husband, finding someone to father my children. And so many women just, settle and then end up divorced with a small child or two or three or 10. So I'm glad that I didn't have to deal with that. But that being said, in my late 30s, early 40s, I could I could feel that clock ticking. Like my body was like, okay, come on, we're running out of time. Let's do this. Let's do this. Like it was there. I still didn't want kids, but it was funny that I felt, I could feel that my fertility was winding down. Okay, she goes on. Whether there's a real connection, love, passion, etc., is secondary to who's ready to have kids before it's too late. I feel like if I went into dating with that mindset, I might be tempted to choose someone with whom I didn't have the connection I want in a romantic partnership. Hell yes, you would, because you're 37. You got to get this done. If you want a baby, you can't wait until your eggs are old and and it's harder to get pregnant in your 40s and all the fucking mess that comes with it. So you're probably going to have to settle for someone that would probably be a good co-parent, but he has the sex appeal of a pat of butter. Anyway, she goes on. That said, whether it's a good idea really depends on your priorities. I personally want a loving relationship more than I want kids. Okay, good. She knows what she wants. If you have that with your current partner, I can imagine it would be challenging to leave him behind while uncertain if you'll find that with your next partner. On the other hand, I know there are people for whom motherhood is all they've ever wanted or has been a dream of theirs since they were children. If that's you, then it's important to be honest with yourself and hold space for those feelings so you won't end up regretful down the line. Either way, I wish you luck. Yep. And the original poster commented, I completely agree. That's my priority too. Thanks for your input. Something Season 72 commented, your comment about wanting a romantic partnership more than kids stands out to me. I always felt that way too. Motherhood wasn't really something I ever dreamed of. My ex-husband really wanted a child together, so we had one. I was open to the idea at the time, though I leaned child-free otherwise. My partner left me. Now I'm so busy being a full-time single parent to our daughter that I have no time to pursue a partnership like I have always wanted. Man, it sucks to suck, huh? Luckily, I enjoy parenting her now that the toddler years are behind us. I'm a fence sitter for a second, leaning no. But your comment reminded me that my initial desire for partnership over motherhood is valid. It's nice to remember that feeling still underlies my fence sitting and that partners can and do leave. So you can risk being single and needing to find a new partner or being a single parent and doing it, which is somewhat harder. I would not wish single parenthood on anyone, whether it's man or woman. Obviously, there are far more single mothers than single fathers, although I'm sure the fathers are catching up these days. It's, they say it takes a village to raise a child. I don't think it takes a village, but it does take more than one person, in my opinion. Okay. Outrageous Ask 3882 posted, and this is titled, Extremely Fearful and Anxious About Having a Special Needs Child. So this is a post about that very issue we were just talking about. I imagine the vast array of feelings that, well, I can't imagine anyone else's feelings, but if I wanted kids and went through the pregnancy and the birth and everything, only to have the child later be turned out to be disabled in some way, I would feel guilty. I would feel like, what's wrong with me? How did I cause this? Why is this happening? I'm sure not everyone feels that way, but that is definitely a good reason not to have kids because, I don't know if anyone remembers the comedian Doug Stanhope. He used to do this bit about how you see athletes on TV and these guys are in perfect physical condition, and then they'll have a kid with some rare disorder or some disability. So there's no guarantee that if you're healthy that your baby's going to be healthy, and there's no guarantee that if you're unhealthy your baby's going to be unhealthy. Look at all the morbidly obese women that are able to get pregnant and have perfectly good pregnancies and easy birth and go on their merry way. Looking at you, Alexandra Rodriguez. um, she goes on. Title says it all. I'm completely fearful of having a child with autism or ADHD. I work in hospital level mental health of children birth to 18 years old. So I see everything, the worst of the worst. I am aware this isn't representative of the normal population. However, it's my entire full-time 9 to 5 week. I am already on the fence as it is. Plus, the fear that I will have a special needs kid scares me beyond words. So, if this woman were to get pregnant and decide to keep the baby, that's going to be in her mind the whole time. I mean, who's to say that doesn't influence your body in the way that the child is developing? This lady should not have kids. I mean, bless her for doing the work she does. That's enough kids to be around. There's no diagnosed autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, in mine or my partner's families, so I am fully aware this is anxiety driven. However, his father is likely autism spectrum disorder, minor, rigidity, and limited emotional capacity. Honey, that sounds like you got yourself a narcissist, not an autistic. And I believe I may be minor neurodivergent, sensory challenges, and minor rigidity, and ADHD, inattentive, but also minor. Well, so there's no diagnosed, but she's saying she and her husband could possibly be on the spectrum a little bit. My partner desperately wants kids, and I wholeheartedly believe he's my soulmate. So I am really struggling. This lady does not mention how old she is. Soulmate is a word that I think of just very young people using. I have come around to the idea of possibly having one and done. Don't do it, girl. Don't do it. But if this ends up being a special needs kid, I already anticipate I will be suicidal and full of regret. There's your answer. There is your answer. Not really sure what I'm asking, just some words of advice, I guess. Oh my God. Okay, here's some comments. Arabic Dial Fan commented, I understand the fears. I'm also a fence sitter, and having a special needs child is a big fear too. I have seen families totally drained by Down syndrome kids, etc. I do have some emotional dysregulation and some other ADHD related things, but I think how it manifests depends on upbringing and character a lot too. I have some emotional dysregulation and some other ADHD related things, but I think how it manifests depends on your upbringing and your character. Interesting. Also, it tends to be different in women versus men. Really? I know nothing about autism spectrum disorder. For context, I am prescribed the second highest possible dose of medication that is prescribed to adults in my country. And I am not a case of just a bit ADHD. And I only started taking medication in my 20s. So my childhood was totally unmedicated, yet without too much ADHD trouble for my parents. Sounds like they were just a normal kid. doing kid things, having kid energy, unable to sit still because they're a kid. Not making a case for you wanting an ADHD kid. I would love to get rid of the ADHD. Just adding some perspective on how those fears might be a bit easier to face when you look at the range of possible outcomes, not just the worst of the worst. Yeah, but this lady said that her husband desperately wants kids. And so that's coming into play here. And that is just the fucking worst. When a woman is sure of herself that she does not want children, and then she feels bad because she wants to make her husband happy, or her parents happy, or her grandparents happy, or the in-laws happy. And, well, we know how that goes because we read a lot of regretful parents posts on this channel. She goes on. Dog or Donut commented, I have ADHD and I was definitely the hyperactive emotional dysregulation type. In the grand scheme of things, I still don't think I was that bad of a kid. My mom is very type A and a strong authoritarian, so that probably helped. I was very talkative, physically active, and emotional, but I was feral. I was still a straight A student and well behaved on a day-to-day basis. I was very prone to power struggles, particularly if I did not believe a rule was justified. This person sounds like me. Maybe I'm on the ADHD spectrum. No, I'm not making a joke about ADHD, and I don't think I'm on the spectrum for that because I don't have ADHD. But would still be narrowly focused on rebellion. For the high energy, my parents put me in sports and had my brother and I tire each other out. When I talked too much, my parents would straight up say, enough, and I would stop. Okay, good on your parents. I don't think there's more ADHD than there used to be, but I do think a lot of modern parenting tends to make ADHD worse, which makes it seem more prevalent. Interesting. Additionally, the downside of increase in ADHD awareness is a decrease in the expectations for kids with ADHD. Yeah, that would seem to be true. My mom made zero concessions in her expectations for my behavior versus my neurotypical brother. Modern parents often consciously or subconsciously shift their expectations when their child is diagnosed with ADHD, and that has an impact on how they parent. Well, I can see how that would absolutely be true. The point is that while nature is a major component to behavior, so is nurture. As a parent, you have a lot of influence over how your kid acts. In the long run, the first 2 years are a crapshoot. Wow. That was a pretty good comment. Next post is from Huge Nobody 4711, titled, Why Can't I Just Want to Have Kids? I, 33, feel like my life would be far simpler if I wanted to have kids. 2 of my best friends are pregnant, and I'm once again terrified if I'll be left behind as they head to a life I don't have. You could think of it as you being child free, you have a life that they don't have. And as we know, parents, whether they're regretful or not, miss their old life, miss their freedom, and can get envious of the child free people that they know. So I think it just depends on how you look at it. She goes on, I'm doing my best to stay in touch, go to therapy, build my own life as well as I can. I'm not in a relationship, single since 2016, and that feels hard too. I really put myself out there, talk to new people a lot, but it just doesn't click with anyone. I still feel less than. They have relationships, intimacy, partners, double incomes, kids on the way, all of it. I hate envying them. Yeah, being envious or jealous of another person, I mean, it's a normal human emotion, but it just sucks. It sucks so much. And I don't know why we developed this emotion because it really doesn't serve us in any positive way. But this person definitely should not have children because she will eventually meet a new partner. And then hopefully that person won't want kids and they will have double income, no kids, which, if you didn't know, is called DINK. DINK. Don't blame me. I didn't come up with it. Okay, comments on this post. Ostrich Careful 7715 commented, life is definitely not simpler with kids. Yes, amen. I can understand why it feels that way emotionally, but it adds an incredible amount of complexity and stress. Many find that complexity ultimately worthwhile, but it's not simple in the long term of having them, even if the urge may feel simple. That's a good point to make. Salty Lettuce said, boy, do I know how that feels. I am fence sitting. I'm a 29-year-old female, almost 30, leaning towards child-free. I used to be sure I want at least 2 kids until I started working and became stressed about my time. After a few years working 9 to 6, I found myself on the fence. I keep wondering, what is wrong with me that I see little joy for having kids and definitely see it as more of a chore than a joy? But I take a step back and think about how I was raised, what values have been projected onto me by my family, and how my current family weighs in my life to find out why my greatest desires do not align with having kids. Let's keep in mind, folks, that she's 29, so when she was raised, that was 25 years ago, let's say. I mean, that's only the year 2000. The world is vastly different, vastly more expensive, vastly more difficult. And having a kid just adds an incredible amount of difficulty. And she's already saying, she got a job and started working and she values her free time. And you don't have free time if you have kids. What I mean is, we live in demanding contexts. We are now more aware of what pregnancy, birth, and child raising entail. And we work a fucking lot. My mother raised me and my sister almost alone. Father had a job involving a lot of travel, but she had an 8 to 13 to 14 work schedule usually. I'm not sure what that means. Anybody know what that means? Please tell me in the comments. Maybe like days on versus days off? I don't know. Flexible, as she had her own medical practice. And as she put it at the time, back in my day, all there was to life was finish your studies, get married, and have kids. That was it. Yep. That was it for women, basically from day one of the patriarchy. I, too, am afraid of losing touch with my friends after they start having their families. But fret not. Parents need to escape their family life sometimes as well. And remember, they are individuals, not just parents. So they will love keeping in touch with their child-free friends. If your values align already, your friendship will survive, even if it might be rocky for 1 to 2 years when the parents will be sucked by the needs of their kids. And even if they don't, being child-free isn't as stigmatic as it used to be 20 to 40 years ago. Yeah, you still get crap for being child-free, and people love to tell women, oh, you'll change your mind. You'll change your mind. No, you won't. Women know their own minds. They know. Women who don't want to have kids know they don't want to have kids. They're not going to change their mind. Too long, didn't read. I don't think anything is wrong with you. Just think about your context and background and desires for the future. Your friendships will survive because parents want to keep a semblance of themselves even before they have kids to some extent. Well, I mean, yes, they're going to be busy raising babies and toddlers and nesting and all of that, but that doesn't mean that they're not still your friends. I mean, it takes 5 seconds to send a text saying, "Hey, thinking of you. How are you?" So if they are your real friends, you will still be friends. Dreamer293 commented, "I was you 8 years ago. I was the last of all my friends to have kids. I wanted to be a mom so bad. I now have 2 boys. They are 8 and 6. The 6-year-old is autistic. I am absolutely miserable." My friends are also miserable as parents. I just never realized before. When they would complain about their kids, I thought they were making jokes or exaggerating. I have no freedom or money anymore. I can go on and on. I wish she would, because I bet she has some good things to say about the subject. If you do decide to have kids one day, make sure that you 100% want them, or you will most likely regret it. Absolutely. For now, just be the fun aunt to your kids, to your friends' kids. They will be jealous of you once their kids get here. And that is true. And with that, I try to tell little stories from my life on this channel. And that makes me think of, I may have said this before on some video, but when I was about 8 years old or so, my dad's mother, my Nana, who was just a piece of work. She was something else. And she was just fabulous. And she only had my dad. She was an only child. He was an only child. And so one day she pulled me aside and she said, "Hey, listen, this is what you need to do. Let your brothers," because I have 3 younger brothers. At that time, I had 2. "Let your brothers grow up and get married and have children, and you be the fun aunt or aunt, depending on how you say it, and go over there and play with the kids and bring gifts and have fun, and then go home to your nice, clean, quiet apartment." And that is what I did. And that is all I have for you today, guys. If you like this video, please like it. Please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment. All that cool YouTube stuff. If you watch my content fairly regularly, you may notice that I do not have my little foster chihuahua, Sparky, and that's because he was adopted by a wonderful family, specifically for the 96-year-old grandpa whose other chihuahua recently passed, and he was very lonely. And now Sparky lives like a king with his new 96-year-old best friend and his family. And they also have 2 other small little dogs that he plays with, and a yard and all that stuff. So I will be getting a new foster soon. I'm just not sure when. If you are an animal lover, I always say on this channel, please consider fostering for your local animal shelter. It's not as hard as you think it is. You will love it. The dogs will love it. The cats, whatever you choose to foster. Just give it some thought. It makes you feel like you are helping to save the world. So I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much.